also have with me Mr. Anil Sharma, the Chief Flight Attendant of IC814, and Dr. Anita Joshi joining me from Dehradun. She is also a survivor. We'll also in just a short while be joined by Mr. Chandar Prakash Chhabra, one more survivor of the flight. Let me begin this conversation with Mr. Anil Sharma, who was the Chief Flight Attendant of IC814. Mr. Sharma, thank you for speaking to NewsXI. I want to begin by asking you, when you learned of the news that one of the masterminds of the IC814 hijacking had been eliminated in Operation Sindoor, what were your first thoughts, sir?
Good evening to you, ma'am, and good evening to all your listeners, viewers, wherever they might be. To be honest, when I first heard the news about the elimination of the mastermind, I thought there was some kind of a mix-up, and we hadn't got the exact news. Because since 1999, when the hijack ended, there have been several incidents, where we heard news about. We had, I believe, of course, I've got to believe because the news reports that a couple of the hijackers were shot dead. The youngest one, Bhola, I forget his actual name, he was eliminated in Karachi by unknown men, and then there was another hijacker who also met the same fate. But these were unverified, because they've come from across the border. And this time also I felt maybe, it's just speculation. But then once we had authorized information coming in, then there was definitely a sense of relief, and it was a huge surprise that our forces had achieved what seemed an impregnable fortress within which the Masood Azhar and his family were living. And hats off to the people who planned it, and certainly it's like giving a very clear signal that this is now the new India, as everyone says and believes, that it can strike deep inside Pakistan and get to the root of the those conspiracies, not just the handlers overground or those. Of course, they also need to be taught a lesson that India can't be taken lightly. So there was a huge sense of relief that I felt about that.
And Mr. Sharma, if just for the benefit of our viewers, if you could perhaps shed some light on what's it been like over these years. Like you said that over time you did hear news of one or the other terrorists getting eliminated in some operation or some sort of an incident in Pakistan. But what's it been like knowing all these years that the mastermind was still roaming free and plotting more and more terror attacks?
See, I don't need to go back. It's known to everybody that there was a huge controversy surrounding the resolution of this hijack. People were blaming the then government for releasing 3 dead terrorists. So there have been mixed feelings, I have had a personal opinion about that. I've felt, as you mentioned earlier in the introduction, that they had to exchange for all the, there were 190 hostages to begin with. Some were released at Al Minat, Dubai, and the rest of us got released on 31st of December. And but there was, a section of Indian public believed that, soldiers die, and it's not fair that the government let release 3 dead terrorists. And soon enough, India faced, an attack of sorts, at various intervals. As you mentioned, the parliament attack, then maybe 26/11, they were all, of course, because it's, as we've seen now recently, after or during Operation Sindoor, that they're all, connected in one way or the other to the Pakistan Army and the ISI. And one was living with that kind of a guilt. As I said, I was clear that the government couldn't have allowed a carnage, a massacre of 150 plus hostages, which were on board IC814 at Kandahar. And with Taliban in command, we had very little choice. Even if the terrorists would have let us go, probably Taliban wouldn't have. So one has always lived with some sense of guilt. And I also remember having read an article where the author had, it was one of the newspapers. He said that Maulana Masood Azhar would have got away even without Kandahar. So now this is the state of affairs. We had a very weak case against him, and but to have let him go created a wave of controversy, and then these attacks. Uh, so I think it was kind of balancing, in my mind that okay, he's caused enough damage and he needs to be, you know, dealt with, eliminated somehow. And I think we've gotten fairly close to that.
Absolutely. At the same time, Mr. Anil Sharma, so you have seen then first hand what the brutality of these terrorists truly entails. I want to understand from you, when the Prime Minister then stands before the nation and says that henceforth any act of terrorism will be considered an act of war, what does that make you feel?
It makes you feel very good, to put it very simply. Because when you're in a war situation, you take the case of Israel, you take other countries which have been at the receiving end of these kind of conspiracies, and these are global conspiracies, mind you. What happened to Israel and what's happened to us, or been happening over the years, doesn't get hatched in a small room somewhere. There are people who support. We've seen some countries come out in support of Pakistan, despite knowing that a fair amount of terrorists. Why fair amount? In fact, almost all terror-related incidents originate or are hatched in Pakistan. So I would say that yes, it makes me feel very proud as an Indian, and I mean zero tolerance for any kind of act of terror. And why not? If those people are going to prick you every now and then, they are going to you know um, show a thumb to you when after committing this kind of thing, and then there is no guarantee that it will stop after one incident. I mean, people in I hate to say it, but local people in Kashmir, some local people I would say, have um, arranged this deadly Pahalgam massacre. So for somebody, the Prime Minister, of course, is the head of the nation. He gives a direction to the forces. He and his team draw a policy about dealing with it. So when he stands and says, I think it's meant to be taken very seriously, not just by citizens of India, but also people who have had a evil eye uh, on a nation which is growing, developing, prospering.
And Mr. Sharma, after Operation Sindoor, are you hopeful somewhere that people like Masood Azhar will finally be brought to justice? Does it give you some hope, given that, as I just mentioned, that India has now changed its policy on terrorism going forward? We have what we're calling a new doctrine on terrorism. So does that give you some hope that finally terrorist masterminds like Masood Azhar could possibly be brought to justice?
Certainly, ma'am. No two ways about it, because of course, Pakistan is going to give him even greater security and throw a cordon of fortification around him. But when somebody's time is up, and I'm sure people now, this bears out. The fact that they knew that where Bahawalpur is, and which part of Bahawalpur that mosque or whatever the residence of the other family was located in. So that they have information. People have been saying, where was the intelligence? Where was it? It's not. When we got hijacked and we had a briefing with the intelligence bureau people, they said what you often get to hear, that we've got to be 99% of the time all right. They have to be winning just 1%. So it's not going to be an easy task, but I have a somehow something in my mind says that it's going to happen sooner or later.
Okay, Mr. Sharma, thank you so much for
My
joining us
pleasure.
on NewsX with that perspective.